So Elia,
Yeah.
tell us about Radio Caroline, the pirate radio station ship, and just like the '60s and the spirit of rebellion versus like the corporate culture.
Establishment.
Yeah, the establishment.
Yeah, it was started by an Irish a guy called Ronan O'Reilly, who was living in London at the time, and he represented several artists and tried to get their music out. And he discovered that there was like a monopoly by two major record labels, and if you didn't get through to them, then you just didn't get played, you didn't get any airplay, you know. And although he'd released them, they had been released, and he had the records, he couldn't get them played. He couldn't get distribution, so he decided to start his own station outside of territorial waters where there was no government control and where you could basically play it if you so wanted to. So that's what he did, you know, and it was a very successful station for about 3 years. Then it was outlawed, you know, because they didn't like the fact that they didn't have any control of it. Besides, they were playing records and not paying any royalties either, that kind of thing. And they were taking advertising, which was really illegal, but they pretended they were reading this information from a magazine and got around it that way. So they were outlawed in '67. We were off the air for a couple of years. Continued broadcasting after the Marine Offences Act, but got closed down eventually anyways. Then came over to Holland and reopened in '72 under the name Radio Caroline again, but with the help of some Dutch investors.
Nice.
Went out back to sea and broadcasted, you know, basically also to get back into broadcasting to England, but of course because they were so close to Holland. They had a good reach over most of Holland as well at the same time, you know. And I started listening to them. I thought it was a brilliant station. They just played album tracks, no top 40.
That's great.
So I liked it because they were playing that long album tracks, especially in the evening. They were quite poppy during the day, but in the evening they changed, and I listened to it in the evenings. I really liked it, so I started writing letters, you know, extensively decorated with, you know, all kinds of, you know, illustration, you know, so they probably stood out. So I said, you should come round to my place, and one of them did, and the Archer, and then invited me to the ship, and that's how I, you know, got involved in it. Just come out to the ship. I worked on the ship for about 6 weeks, and then got a job in the office.
Wow.
You know. So I liked it because I discovered that there was another way of living outside of society, outside of the law, you know, and as a hippie, you know, I was really interested in the alternative living.
Not being told what to do with your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Constantly.
You know, so you know, it was, yeah, exactly. So I liked it, and it seemed like there was no competitive elements. People were working together, so the idea of working together, cooperating rather than competing, really appealed to me. And also Ronan was really into promoting a certain way of thinking, which appealed to me too, which was rather than being all defensive and competitive, it was being cooperative and loving, you know, which I think fitted in with the hippie philosophy, you know, and it's something that I still believe in today. It hasn't changed, you know, that kind of set me on that, I think, that in that direction, but I already thought like that anyway.
Yeah.
It just reinforced the fact that this was possible, you know, because they did it. You know,
You found your tribe.
I found my tribe, yeah, and I found, you know, I mean, we got, you know, I mean, it was the only radio station that got proper, thoughtful letters with content, you know, not fan letters, but, you know, people talking about issues rather than just, can you play me this record, you know, like that's what normally happens. Yeah. You know, so, you know, a bit of depth, you know, in thinking and acting, and nobody was in it for the money because there wasn't any, you know, people just joined it as volunteers. Still run today with volunteers, Caroline, by the way, still here on the internet, it hasn't disappeared.
Do they still have a ship, or is it?
The first one, the one I worked on, sank in 1980. It was so rusty and old, you know, and they couldn't take it. They couldn't take it anywhere to have it fixed because it was an illegal ship, so it sank. And they bought a second one, the Lost Revenge, which still, yeah, but that still exists. It's still there. It's lying in a river in England somewhere, and it's been constantly being done up. They put new masts on, They broadcast from it occasionally. You know, they get short broadcast licenses to broadcast on AM, you know, medium wave still, you know, it still exists. So yeah, it's still there.
Excellent. So Radio Caroline helped like start a lot of careers in music that wouldn't have otherwise been played.
They played, yeah, they played, and they also played a lot of American bands, which wouldn't have made it otherwise in Europe, I don't think. They played, you know, when they were off the coast of Holland, they played a lot of Dutch bands, you know. Which was interesting because for once, whilst those pirates were there, for once you just didn't just hear American and English music.
That's great.
You heard Italian artists, French artists, German artists, which you don't in Britain normally, you know, but they could hear, and you don't in the States. They just don't play it because they can't understand the language.
No, what about here in Holland now? Do you hear Dutch bands on radio? Because when I travel around, I hear like way too much American music everywhere.
They do. They have them. You know, it depends on what station you listen.
Yeah.
They do have Dutch bands that sing in Dutch, and you have Dutch bands like Golden Earring that sing in English. You know, if they sing in English, they have, of course, more of a chance to make it worldwide. That's why they do. But it's a bit sad, really, that you have to sing in English and talk in English to get anywhere. Why?
Is that another monopoly?
Of course it is. It's a language monopoly. You know. Which I, as a non-English, non-American person, I quite resent. Although, I mean, I had to learn it, otherwise I would have been stuck in Holland.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be able to go anywhere else, you know.
So Radio Caroline helped bands like Led Zeppelin. They probably wouldn't have been as popular without first being played on pirate ships.
Yeah, no, the pirates, yeah.
What about like Pink Floyd? Did they get regular radio play?
Well, I mean, it started with the offshore stations, but eventually, well, BBC, they created BBC Radio 1, which was a rock station. Because of they closed down the stations and then they opened Radio 1. Which, you know, like Tony Blackburn is an ex-Caroline DJ, and he went to Radio 1, a lot of them did, so they created something that was similar. You know, so that was the end of that period because they incorporated it into, you know, the controlled society with the same DJs, and you know, I think it was just most bands made it because of Radio 1, not pirates. Some of them did in the
what
early
about now?
60s. Now
Do you see like
there's
authentic music?
No, there isn't
Hard to
any.
find?
There isn't any to promote, is there?
If there is,
New
it's really
music.
hard to find.
Oh,
There's
there's
so
where
much
is it?
music.
Well, but where? What bands? Name me 5 contemporary bands that you really like.
That I really like that are known or unknown.
Well,
But I'm
no,
talking
it
about there's a
isn't.
lot of good music out there, but stuff that gets played is pop.
Well, that's what I mean. They don't play it, do they? Doesn't get promoted. Besides, everything's FM now, which means it regionalizes everything. It makes everything local. They got rid of the medium wave. They got rid of the stations that you could hear
Local
nationwide.
music.
No, there's no more stations nationwide. It's all local. In America, if you drive for a bit, you'll lose the signal because it's not medium wave. It's FM. FM is very regional, and that stops people from listening to like a station from Mexico or something like that.
Most people don't even listen to the radio. They listen to
In their cars they do.
Spotify or digital.
In their cars they do, because you can't get Spotify in your car.
Yeah, you can.
People do in their cars.
People do it with their phones in the States. They rarely listen to regular radio at all.
In their cars?
Yep. And then there's like cars have like the digital radio, like Clear Channel, which monopolizes the
Yeah,
music.
you hear it's still regular radio. People still listen to it.
Yeah, there is still.
Radio 10, you know, here Radio Teen, people listen to it in their cars. When I get into any car here, people have a radio and have it on.
A lot of the new cars in the States don't have radio.
Yeah, well, they do here. You know, I mean, they're not going that direction. They're keeping regular radios with FM, and people actually listen to it all the time. They don't have Spotify in their cars.
So what about new music in Holland? Is it?
No, I'm sure there's some. I don't know of it.
Yeah.
I'm too old, anyways. I tend to listen to the old music. I'm sure there is, but I don't know.
What authentic cultures do you see?
Authentic? What do you mean? Authentic Dutch culture?
Yeah, authentic Dutch culture or progressive.
Americanized. They've been totally Americanized.
it's very fetishistic. Like somebody asked me if Dutch people like are, completely worship Americans, and I'm like,
Yeah, they do.
but
They don't go. They don't go
No,
to when they go to the shops. It used to be like winkelen, which is the Dutch word, and now they go. They know that it's called shoppen. So it's creeping in. English is creeping into their language. They're all wear baseball hats, which is something when I came back when I left Britain in 1993. There was no baseball hats at all. When I came back, there was.
Are there baseball teams?
No, there aren't. It's just
Yeah.
the hats. It's just one of those American iconic things that people like. Well, because it's American, preferably a baseball hat because I love New York on it. They do. And then I think they're really cool. Compared with a Gap, with a T-shirt with Gap on it or something. That kind of thing. Well, that's what people now advertise. Companies, on their cups and everything. Starbucks, free. They don't even pay the customers to advertise their product.
Right.
So. And I don't know why people do it. I think they're somehow brainwashed into it, or they're just stupid. They're not thinking.
Well, if that's all they see.
You think it's cool.
And they're not taught to like seek out. You think with the internet, people would seek out more genuine like sources of culture.
They don't use the internet. They use the computers to play games. Yeah, to look for music and clips on YouTube and music.
Pornography and social media.
Yeah, a lot of pornography. They don't use it as a library at all. They use it for entertainment.
What would you say is the most progressive country in Europe?
Most progressive?
Yeah. None?
There aren't any, I don't think. Greece?
Yeah.
Maybe. They've got a left-wing government. Maybe Spain, and once they elect a new government, they'll be left-wing, so they're quite progressive. The southern European countries, certainly. Germany's not doing that badly. Holland's very conservative, Britain's very conservative, France is, although they have a socialist president, I think they're quite conservative.
Yeah.
I just look at their drug laws, Italy's quite strict, France is quite strict, so's Germany, so's England, so's Scotland is even worse,
Really?
The whole of Britain, yeah.
Really?
So, Spain's more tolerant, Spain I would think. And Greece, I think, are the nicest countries. They're also the poorest because they're too nice. They let their people retire at 60 rather than here at 67. So
67 here?
Yeah, 67.
65 in the States.
Yeah, well, it went up here.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it seems like in Europe, the whole American worship, that there's not much, you don't see much new art or new local music.
Not really. I haven't. I don't. There might be, but not really.
Yeah.
They're consumers. People don't produce; they consume. I'm sure there's artists, but you don't really.
Let's talk about.
There's no more focus on it.
Let's talk about that. Why?
Why? Because they're more interested in their old dead artists than dead musicians. From hundreds of years ago.
Easily
people
control.
go. People troop to Jeroen Bos and Rembrandt, but if there's anybody new, they don't. They all go to a classical concert, but they won't go to something new.
Why is that?
Don't know.
Just easier to be told what to do and what to like
Don't
and
know.
what's good.
They're not very inventive. They keep rehashing the same old stuff, and people keep trotting to it.
Does that promote the whole corporate fascist ideal when everything's just regulated?
Probably, yeah.
And it's just homogenized.
Talk about corporate fascists. I think Holland is one of the best examples of that.
High functioning corporate fascism.
Don't forget one of the biggest corporations, a couple of the biggest corporations in the world are Dutch. Shell is Dutch. One of the biggest corporations in the world.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's another one?
Unilever, that's Dutch. You got the drug one, GlaxoSmithKline, they're English. If they're not Dutch, they're English. There's a lot of really big corporations still that are European. And then of course there's a lot of
so that mentality of the big corporation, Shell or whatever.
Big American ones too, of course.
But
mostly computer.
Computer. That's a whole other thing. The computer software, computer culture, computer games.
Or consumer like Starbucks and all that, or chains. food change, food and drink.
But do you think people could have all that and still produce art and music on their own in their local
No, they
communities?
can't. No.
Too much work, too much
Well,
effort.
I mean, it
They
kills your
want instant
spirit. All
recognition.
those kind of things kill your spirit. You're not going to
That's
be
what it
very
is.
inspired if you sit in a McDonald's, do you? If you sit in a nice French coffee bar from the 50s, surrounded by like-minded people, you've got to produce something. If you go and sit in a McDonald's, surrounded by screeching kids, you're not, are you? And that's what people do nowadays.
And that's
Students
the
go,
world culture.
they go and demonstrate in London. Youngsters, they go to demonstrate against something, then they go to the McDonald's. Doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, they don't continue, they have a demonstration, but they don't continue with conversations and get-togethers, and you know what I mean?
Well, that's what killed the Occupy.
They
in
go
the
back
States.
home and sit and tell about people about it on their Facebook,
or Twitter.
which is fine, but it's not enough.
So, that's just one vehicle.
It's good for organising Facebook, but you shouldn't have your petitions on Facebook.
No,
It doesn't,
click-
it's
Collectivist.
virtual.
Yeah, collectivist is too.
Well, it's virtual.
Disingenuous.
It's not going to make any difference. It's not going to make any difference, you know. Unless you collect all the signatures, print them out, go to the Houses of Parliament in Britain. If you have 100,000 signatures, virtual or not, and you get them, then you can print them out, you can take them to the Houses of Parliament, but you have to do that. And then they'll have to discuss it.
Do
You
people
know.
do that? Is that
Some
too much
of them.
Yeah.
Some do. Not many, but some do, yeah, if it's important enough for them. So there is some activism. But it's much more. It's also much more of a struggle to be like that, because you know that you're forbidden to have meetings within a mile of the Houses of Parliament of more than 5 people. You know, I mean, they have this herding, this cattling of people, of activists that they isolate them. You know, that kind of thing. So it's very much more difficult also. And they beat you up, and you know, in worst cases they shoot you.
They still do that, huh?
Oh, yeah. And America
Yeah,
started
of
that
course.
in
Yeah,
1970 in Kent State University. These students were demonstrating, and they shot for them for demonstrating, for peaceful, you know, demonstration, and the police opened fire on them.
You think with all the corporate fascism and the regulated mediocre cultures, do you think there'll be a backlash? Do you think people will seek more creative?
I hope so, but I doubt it.
So
people are too lazy. They're consumers. They can't be bothered to go out. Too cold, too uncomfortable. They'd rather sit behind the computers. I'm sorry, but that's
it's like
how it is.
young people have everything like
They have no drive.
no drive, and then like in Holland, as soon as they graduate, they get all these bills they have to pay, so they can't go out and see the world.
They should go and study somewhere where you don't have to pay for it, so they don't get any bills. They're idiots. I told you, I said that before. You know, go to Germany where you don't pay. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or don't study.
And they can do that because it's EU.
Teach yourself. Don't bloody study. What are they studying for? There's no jobs. Why are they studying?
So they can pay the corporations that are the universities. Just
Why
like in
are
the States.
people going to university? Why do they go there?
There's a whole alternative university movement in the States.
I never
but
went
it's
there.
also
I don't have
got
any
corporate.
degrees. I didn't go to art school. I can still draw. I didn't need to go to art school.
Yeah.
I could teach myself. I asked that my friend Bill that once. What is the best way to do? Go to art school or teach yourself? And he said teach yourself. And he went to art school because you know what I mean. I thought that was pretty cool, and that's for someone who actually went to one. You know, and all what happened when he went to art school is that one of the teachers ripped him off. Stole his ideas. You know, you're better off on your own because
for me it's like networking.
they copy you. There's competition. You know, I mean, his I think I should mention this because this is disappearing. This now Bill's there. Is that Fritz Scholder who still gets a lot of credit? Ripped off his students.
Especially Bill.
Oh yeah.
And he had multi-million dollars.
And Bill was talking about it, and I really certainly believe Bill because he was a lot of things, but he wasn't a liar, I don't think. And if he says that, then I believe this. And there was a school of thought like Margaret Archuleta from the Hertz Museum who followed up on it. Because if I hear about Scholder now, like there's one in an article about him in that American Meredith in United magazine. It mentions Scholder, it doesn't mention it anymore. It's disappearing.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a big school of thought that think that Fritz is marvelous, and they're winning. It's falsifying history again.
Picasso said that amateurs borrow and professionals steal.
Mhm. Yeah, well, he's a professional thief then. You know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, that's why you're better off teaching yourself, because then you only, if things don't work out, you only got yourself to blame.
Oh, you don't have the big student debt like in the States. People, they're prosecuting now. So if
But
you don't,
why,
there's
I
no
mean,
job,
the
you can't
stu-
back
yeah,
extra
but,
student loans, you go to jail.
Yeah, but students know. The kids know this, so why do they still go and study?
They
They
need-
know.
They need to go, especially in the arts, go to study with a master, be an apprentice. That's
Yeah.
discouraged.
Yeah, but I
You don't
mean,
hear that
why?
anymore.
Why do they go if they know they're gonna be built with huge debts? I can't understand it. Why do they go?
Just peer pressure.
What
Because
peer
they don't
pressure?
see any other option.
What peer pressure? From whom?
Parents.
So are you supposed
Get out of
to
the
rebel
house, go to
against your
school.
parents? You're not getting out of the house. You're just building up a debt.
That's what
You're better off staying at
human
home.
beings are supposed to do, is rebel against your parents so you
No,
can get
they
your own
don't.
personality.
You don't. Parents tell them to go to university, so they go to university. That's not rebelling.
You see, like this, like in the future, perhaps this mentality of the fascist, corporate fascist mindset, that creative people will be seen as degenerates and outlaws and criminals.
Oh yeah.
Because in the States, they're already demonizing creatives. They call them creatives.
Oh. I don't
So,
know.
and I had the psychiatric industry. They have new pharmaceutical drugs for people that are creative.
I don't know. I
So-
think it's very strange. You know, why shouldn't you be able to be creative? I don't know. Maybe in the States they do. They're not here.
I don't see
They
much
don't
creativity
demonize-
here.
Yeah, but they don't demonize artists.
But it doesn't seem like anybody wants to be an artist.
Yeah, that's because of the computers. I keep telling you.
What do
People
you
are
mean?
consumers. Well, they're sitting on their computers playing games.
You just copy and paste stuff they find on the internet. That's their
No,
art.
they're not, you know, I mean, it's not stimulated anymore, and there's no space for it because they occupy all their time peering to their phones. You know, that's what they do.
Yeah.
You know, so why should you be creative if you can just sit and play a game? Much easier. People are lazy, basically. If they're not stimulated and if there's no time, they're not going to produce anything, are they?
Yeah.
I don't think.
So whatever gene we have that keeps us motivated,
Yeah.
other people don't have.
Well,
Like,
then people
socially
might be
engineered out of culture.
people might be genetically changing.
Possibly.
Well,
With
I
GMOs
think so.
and with
Oh, yeah.
social engineering, with corporate
Exactly.
culture.
Brainwashing, computers. You know, it's much easier to control us now since the invention of the computer. Much
Absolutely.
easier.
Absolutely.
Look at that car we just saw that was clamped by the tax people. And why is that possible now? Because they can just go through a street, read all the number plates, check them in their computer to see if they've paid their tax, and immediately clamp you if you haven't.
Or they just
Well,
have
in
it
the
on
olden days, you had a chance. You could just quickly
Yeah.
drive away, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't anymore now.
No, they can have it like just automatic software that just
Mhm.
looks at cameras on the street
Mhm.
and it goes through a computer program
Mhm.
and then it just like sends the information
Exactly.
and they send a person to go clamp your car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a big difference. That's it
Yeah.
off, I think,
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
for
Oh,
now.
yeah.
It's about
Vandenberg.
15 minutes or something,
Yes.
isn't it?
Perfect.